Hello, everyone. My name is Brendan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. And welcome to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. Today, I'd like to talk to you about why we live in a great time to be a Star Wars fan. Now, let me preface this. You may be saying, but Brendan, how in the world can this be a great time to be a Star Wars fan when there's so many idiots on the internet throwing nonsense around and yelling at us and telling us that we're wrong and telling us that Disney has ruined Star Wars and telling us the Galaxy's Edge is a failure? How can this be a great time to be a Star Wars fan when all these boo birds and trolls are running around the internet making our lives a living hell? Well, it's simple. Those guys don't matter. And that's all I'm going to say about them. We live in a great time to be a Star Wars fan. Not only are we about to have our fifth movie in 4 years, I think. We are about to see a Star Wars live action streaming show. Now, I remember many years ago that George Lucas had in mind to make a live action Star Wars TV show back in the mid 2000s. At the time, I think such an idea was laughable. To make a series, a Star Wars series, and put it on television. Streaming wasn't a thing at the time. But now, streaming is the way of the future. Streaming shows are dominating the Emmy Awards. Streaming shows are all over the various platforms. Their budgets have gone up, giving many of them a cinematic quality. And the same could be said for The Mandalorian. Now, we haven't seen much of The Mandalorian, but if it pays off, it's going to be quite a thing. Now, yes, there is a chance that it may not work. But being a series that, by the way, is going to be released on a week-by-week basis instead of all at once, it has the potential to improve if it doesn't start off as well. But I suspect it's going to be a good show. I remember that only a few years ago, such an idea of making Marvel streaming shows or Star Wars streaming shows that were going to be any good is laughable. I think when George Lucas was thinking about doing a series many years ago, I think a lot of people were thinking it would be more in the vein of Young Indiana Jones, which is fun but awfully cheesy. I think this time around we're going to get some good stuff. The production quality is very high. They've hired filmmakers to work on this show. You know, they're pulling out all the stops. And boy, is it exciting. It's also exciting. One thing that I failed to talk about is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the new video game that's coming. We haven't had a real, single-player Star Wars video game in years. Yes, we had Battlefront and things like that. And we've had the various mobile games, but the mobile games don't really count. And Battlefront, well, pretty interesting, has found ways to, how shall I put it, piss people off. Though I don't like to use that word, but for sake of argument. Jedi Fallen Order. Now, I've seen some of the gameplay footage, and it looks great. Yet again, I hope it pays off. But if it does, this could lead to a better future for Star Wars video games. Lucasfilm, you may recall, used to dominate the point-and-click adventure genre of computer games back in the early 90s. With hits like Monkey Island and, all kinds of the great games of the time period. Maniac Mansion, Day of the Tentacle. But it would seem that LucasArts in recent years has drastically reduced its output. And it's kind of a shame because with video games being as awesome as they are nowadays, particularly of the console variety, I think Star Wars could benefit as a franchise by tapping into that market. Also, we know that the fans are absolutely starved for a Star Wars video game. So I'm excited. Jedi Fallen Order, the gameplay looks pretty neat. I like the idea that Forrest Whitaker is reprising his role as Saw Gerrera, I think using performance capture. It sounds like his voice when I watch the gameplay footage. Really, the technology is pretty neat, and I really hope that Jedi Fallen Order pays off, so that it can lead to kind of a renaissance of Star Wars video games. We have, of course, the 3 movies that were announced that will be coming out in the next decade, which, as far as we know, will bear no relation to the 9-episode saga, which is kind of refreshing. We've got lots of books and comics that are filling in the gaps. I have to catch up. I've read the Thrawn and Thrawn Treason, or should I say Thrawn Alliances. I have not read Thrawn Treason, but I heard it's quite a read. I have to admit, I'm a little behind. I do want to read Master and Apprentice. I do want to read Thrawn Treason. But I'm not planning on reading all of the books, but those are the ones I'm really interested in. And this, some of the upcoming stuff, like, The Rise of Kylo Ren, and whatever that book is, I'm drawing a blank on the title, that goes into Luke's understanding of the Jedi. Those, I think, are fascinating, and I'm excited to read those. I have not read this new comic about Snoke, though, admittedly, I don't think it's out yet. You may have seen people talk about that online, going into some of the stuff that Snoke and Kylo Ren did before the events of The Force Awakens. So there is so much coming out right now. So much to be happy and excited about. Not only do we have The Mandalorian, but the Cassian Andor series and the Kenobi series. Now, as far as I know, the Kenobi series is going to be more of a mini-series. I think. Now, I'm not sure about that, but I really hope that all this excitement that's building about these shows and about these new products pays off. But I have faith that it will, and I think that we live in a marvelous time. And here's the other great thing. If something comes along and you don't particularly like it, there are other wonderful things that you can explore that may work for you better than some of the other products. With so much diversity in the material to choose from, it makes it so that you can always find something that's going to work for you. And I think it's a glorious time to be a Star Wars fan. My name is Brendan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. Thank you so much for tuning in to Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.